To this session, and thank you so much, all of you, for being here today. Today we have with us Kynpham Singh Nongkynrih, acclaimed writer from Shillong, from my part of the world, and he's brought to us his beautiful new book, The Distaste of the Earth. Maybe Kynpham, you can show them the cover. And Kynpham's been very modest in his bio. He sent me his bio and he said that this is a book which has not won any awards. But as you all probably know, it's been longlisted for the JCB this year, Shakti Bhat Book Award, and on very many best book of 2024 lists. So we'll start off right now. Before I begin, Kynpham, may I say I love the book. I love the book. It's so poetic, so lyrical, and the way it was woven together, I was lost as if in a fantasy world. I was quite sort of lost in the world it conjured up. And many of the philosophies, it's at the root of it a very deeply philosophical book. Many of the philosophies it presents resonated with me at a very personal level. The very deep connection with nature, the very deep rootedness in your community and traditions. And beyond that, what struck me about the book was the many questions it raised, the many questions it posed. How much do we need to survive? How much do we as human beings really need to survive? And is our greed eventually going to destroy this world? We are seeing extreme climate in so many regions of the world, extreme weather, meltdowns, fires. And I think this book does a very good job of commenting, critiquing, and spurring us on to think of various questions. Kynpham, would you like to say anything before we start the actual question and answer?
Hello. A very good afternoon to everyone. I just wanted to say that I never thought of myself as a philosopher, and she was talking about so much philosophy in the book. So that I found that a bit embarrassing. But who am I to judge myself?
Well said as a writer. Yes. To begin with, so this book is called The Distaste of the Earth, and that's a very intriguing title. And that's the first thing I wanted to ask Kynpham is that why did you title it The Distaste of the Earth?
In fact, Manasi, the chief editor of Penguin, wanted to call it the Queen and the Pauper, because people keep because it is based on a legend about star-crossed lovers between someone who lives like a pariah and a queen consort. But I didn't like that because this book is not a love story. The love story is a very important element in the book, and many people find it, even the most moving element in the book. But for me, the love story is just incidental to the existential exploration of a life hounded from the beginning to the end by death and suffering. So the distaste of the earth. This is not so much about how the earth is distasteful. It is rather about what man has made of man, what man has made of all the creatures of the earth, and what man has made of the earth itself. But if you will allow me to read a short excerpt that will explain more fully why I had chosen this title, The Distaste of the Earth. I'll just read a brief excerpt. This is, sorry. I have always found this to be very cumbersome. You have to hold a book. This is from part 2 of the book. Part 2 of the book is a very unique section because it comprises of animal stories, animal telling their tales of woe to Manik Raiton, the protagonist in the book, telling their tales of woe at the hands of man. So this section, it's a very long section, more than 100 pages. It can very well form a book within a book. So this is in part 2, the animal story section, just when Manik Raiton is about to meet Maina, one of the animal characters. This will explain why I had titled the book "The Distaste of the Earth." Manik, the protagonist, has just been hounded by the king's men. He has just been hunted by the king's men into the forest. He had to run into the forest for his life. So this is what he says. This is what happens to him. But that night, he has just got into the forest. But that night, Manik could not sleep. As he sat by the small fire, warm, snug, and safe, making a new charity flute from a bamboo stem he had cut while returning to the cave, grim, distressing thoughts assailed him, conjuring up dark demons from the recent past. When he was running for his life, intent only upon survival, he had not been thinking very much about his situation. But now that he was safe in his wild, sequestered abode, pain and sorrow and rage, memories of death and disaster, loss and mourning, malice and greed, cruelty and bloodlust, all the monstrous and unspeakable things that had happened to him overwhelmed him with dark waves of despair and the red haze of wrath. He alternated between the pits of anguish and the towering violence of fury. Even the happy images, his parents, his brothers, his dear sister, his cousins, his clan, and his beautiful, beautiful valley, only came to torment him with black despair because they were forever lost to him, destroyed in a flash by the cruelty of fate and the malicious greed of man. He cursed his destiny. He cursed his God. He cried out for vengeance and justice. All his family gone. All his property gone. God had taken away all his loved ones. Man had taken away all he possessed. God was battering his soul, man his flesh. How would he seek vengeance against God, that unknown and unknowable monster of a being, or even against man? How would he avenge himself on the sames, the kings, the ministries, the ministers, the bloody warriors of this infernal world when he was all alone? All the frustration and vexation, he sobbed in misery, howled with rage, and went mad with grief. He ran into the night, attacking the hapless trees with his wildly flailing machete. For many days, Manik existed in that hazy and nightmarish state of desolate grief and frustrated rage. Then, one morning, as he was sitting by his cave, quite unexpectedly, a dark blue myna with a yellowish red beak and a whitish streak at the back of his head fluttered up to a tree nearby and spoke to him. "Play that bamboo pipe," he said. "You will feel better." Manik looked at the myna and rubbed his eyes. Amazed, he said, "Did you just speak to me, Moina? Why do you ask? Is it really you speaking? In your grief, have you even begun to doubt your senses now? I have never heard a bird speak the human tongue before. Who taught you my language? I did not speak the human tongue. It is you who speak my language. Am I dreaming? Am I mad? Is this Moina saying I can speak in the tongue of birds? Not the tongue of birds, the tongue of all creatures. Now play that pipe and summon all who live in the forest to this hill. Tell them your tale of woe, as you had told me in your fevered ramblings. Seek their help, you will feel better." So that's how I came to name it The Distaste of the Earth.
Thank you so much, Kynpham, for this beautiful rendering of one of my favorite sections of the book. I'd spoken to you about this, in that when, as Kynpham mentioned, the principal character, Manik Raitong, he was part of a very powerful Khasi clan, the Riso clan, but eventually, as he said in the so passionately, he lost his family, his lands, to fate, to what God had ordained. And he seeks refuge in the sacred forest in Lyoba. And this is his cry of agony from his soul. Very beautifully put, and answers the question as to why distaste of the earth. In fact, you've answered my next question. I'd asked him, why did you pick Manik Raitong? The legend goes, this young man called Manik Raitong falls in love with the queen, Ling Macau, and of course it's a star-crossed love story, as most stories are, and it ends in disaster for them. But he's explained as to why he picked it. It's actually incidental to the whole exploration of the story around it. It's like peeling an onion almost. This is at the core of it, and the layers and layers of other experiences surround the core. Kynpham, you've been very passionate about Khasi folklore and legend. Your previous book, Funeral Nights, in your other writings and poetry too. How did this begin? How did this interest spark off in you, and when?
I just want to say, that Funeral Nights is not about mythology. Mythology is part of it, but I wrote 1,600 pages of the book. We removed 600 pages, and it came down to 1,000 pages. Not too bad. But so mythology is just a part of it, but it is a book that has everything in it. If you read Kao Xingjian, Soul Mountain, you would understand what I'm trying to do with Funeral Nights. But having said that, you are very right. I use mythology and folklore, whenever I can. You see, I technically I belong to the Khasi religion. I'm not a very religious person, but technically I belong to the Khasi religion. Among us we have this saying that some Khasis are Khasi Hindus, some are Khasi Muslims. Very few of those. Mostly there are Khasi Christians, and about 10% or 15% are what we jestingly call as the Khasis. The Khasis who still adhere to their indigenous religion. So I'm one of them. So, and our religious philosophy is based on our creation myths.
Right.
So that means, being a practitioner of the Khasi faith, that means I grew up with the stories.
Right.
I grew up with the myths, and
Right.
And the legends. But as I grew up, as I read books, and as I listened to people talking and read newspapers and magazines and so on, I realized that my community is a very maligned community. From the times of the British, it had been maligned. For example, Robert Lindsay, the collector of Sylhet, when he came up from the plains of Sylhet to Shatok, a place just below the hills of Sora or the hills of Cherrapunji, when he came up from the plains of Sylhet to Shatok, he saw the hills of Sora for the very first time. He thought that he was transported into the regions of paradise. It was, the hills of Sora were that beautiful. But then he met the Khasis for the first time, and he said, but who are these wild-looking, red-mouthed demons dancing here before me? So you see, he called the Khasis red-mouthed demons, wild-looking red-mouthed demons. And why did he say that? There is a reason, because every one of the Khasis was chewing betel nut, So that's why. But anyway, I mean, that's very uncouth of him to say that. Then there were two Australian writers who came to Shillong for a night, like a water toucher. A water toucher is a dragonfly. We call dragonflies water touchers because they lay eggs on the water. They touch and fly. They touch and fly. They touch the water and fly. So they came like a water toucher, and they went back to Sydney, and they wrote an article with a headline, "Where women rule and men are used as breeding bulls." And why? Just because we practice the matrilineal custom. And then there was an article in Femina, India. It has a headline, "Mom's the word." Mom's the word, where women do all the work and men are parasites and live off the earnings. They drink every day, they drink all day, and they live off the earnings of their wives. These are incredible and terrible misrepresentations of the community. But then, what pains me the most is the ignorance, not the ignorance of the outsiders, but the ignorance of my own people. Most of my own people, don't know anything about their culture, their history, their origins, their geography, their mythology, their stories, their traditional poetry. They don't know much about them. And what is worse is that they don't even want to know. They don't have the desire to know. Some of them even said, the past is better. The past is better dead and damned. That kind of attitude. But for me, in every myth is embedded the wisdom of the race. Every legend speaks with a symbolic overtone or symbolic overtones. So that is why when I use a particular myth or legend, I look for the lessons of the past to guide the present generation. The past becomes a metaphor for the present. And unless I am able to do that, I don't use it at all.
Thank you so much, Kynpham. In fact, you've answered the next question I had, isn't that, are you afraid that the youth of today are losing touch with their roots and their traditions? You've answered that by saying that a lot of them are not even aware. In fact, when he talked about metaphors teaching us, I was a young child in Shillong, and we had this myth of the Thlen, which is a serpent-like creature which lives in the caves of Sora and who feeds on human blood. So our parents or our guardians would say, be careful, the Thlen keeper will come and take you away. We used to call them Dakus. The Daku will come and take you away, and the serpent will feed on your blood. And Kynpham so beautifully explained it in his book that, yes, the Thlen could or could not be there, but what it is a metaphor for within society, the jealousies or the egos of people who feed on other people and stop them from thriving. So it's in a way wisdom crystallized into a myth or a legend which people will understand and it will remain in their minds. So thank you so much for that explanation. Beyond this, a very significant facet of the book is the way it explores our connections with nature, with climate. And today, the burning issues of climate change are right at our doorstep. They're no longer in the future, really. For our next generation, it's going to be a really burning, melting issue. Do you worry about it, Kynpham? And have you always had? I know communities in the Northeast traditionally have a deep affinity with nature. We traditionally lead very sustainable lives. We don't use more than we need. We use sustainable resources like bamboo. We not of the material, the people of our region. Do you personally have a very deep connection, and do you worry about this a lot? Because I see it a lot in the book.
Yeah, I feel very strongly about it. In fact, I feel depressed all the time. When I see the ravaging of nature taking place all around me, and I think it has everything to do with my upbringing and also the quality of empathy that I have. That's why I write haiku, I suppose.
Right.
So you see. The Khasi religion, like all indigenous religions of the world, and this is not me saying, this is also said by all the famous eco-critics writing in the world today. For example, and you find them, in the works of Cheryl Glotfelty, who published a book on the called the Eco-Criticism Reader. So all the eco-critics, acknowledge that there is a lot of wisdom about nature and spirituality in all the indigenous religions of the world.
Yes.
They decry, the anthropocentric arrogance of the major religions, but they say that there is a lot of wisdom about nature and spirituality in all indigenous religions. And this is exactly what describes the Khasi religion. It is to explain that. For example, one of our creation myths say that man is an original inhabitant of heaven. We are not told how man was created, because it would be presumptuous, for man to know how God had created man. So we are not told how man was created, but we are told that he is one of the original inhabitants of heaven. How did he come to settle on earth? He came to earth because of the pleadings of Ram-El. Ram-El is the guardian spirit of the earth and the first created being of God. Ram-El pleaded for whom? She pleaded for conscientious caretakers of the earth, because she said her children were not equipped for the task. So they experimented with hill spirits, it did not work. They experimented with the tiger, it did not work. And finally, a huge council of diverse creatures in heaven decided that 7 sub-tribes should descend to the earth to become the conscientious caretakers of the earth. So you can see that, by this philosophy, man is not the pinnacle of creation. He's not here, he is not asked to go forth and multiply and do whatever you want. So our wisdom is quite anthropocentric. And because of that, because man is only a caretaker and not a master, he is not free to take whatever he sees. He is not the owner. God is the owner. He has to plead with God for everything that he needs. In the past, when Khasis went to the forest for trees, first of all, they had to plead with God. Secondly, they had to plead with trees. In fact, I have a poem, that talks about, that captures the spirit and the words of pleading that they used to do in the past. But I don't think we'll have time to read. So you see, with that kind of anthropocentric and pantheistic philosophy, the Khasis, all Khasis, I must say, have a deep connection with nature, have a deep reverence for nature. But then what happened? Came the British, came the Welsh missionaries, came Western education, Western values, modernity with its capitalism and consumerist greed. And what has happened to us now? We have become a generation that eats till extinction. This is a Khasi saying. We have become a generation that eats till extinction. So I feel very strongly about this, and every time I write, I think about ways about how to educate my compatriots to become more conscientious, to develop a feeling for nature and all the creatures in it, how to inculcate this anti-anthropocentric and pantheistic value among my compatriots. I always look out for ways and means to do that. That's how, when I wrote this book, I also did what I what I did.
So Kympham's just proven what he said in the beginning, that he's not a philosopher, that he's very much a philosopher. And this philosophy, which is actually part of what he says, the Khasi philosophy, also part of many other indigenous communities in the northeast of India, possibly is one way out to all our future problems. It teaches us to live within our means, to revere nature, and to understand that we are not, as he said, at the pinnacle of creation. Time's up, and we keep to very strict time in BLF. So I don't know if we have time for at least one question. I don't know. Can we just take one question, please? Just one question in front with the glasses, with the spectacles.
Sorry, please don't mind. I had a question about Shillong, your opinion on Shillong. So for context, Shillong is starting to become, the content creators and the Instagram Reels guys have started to come. It's still not reached to North Goa, Baga, Kalangut stage, but people are starting to come and starting to build, do things there. And for some reason, I interacted with a lot of youth in Shillong. And what you're saying, part of it is completely true. The fact that they don't really care about what the previous gods were, saying Khasi and all past kind of thing. There are also people who have gotten opportunities for fashion, for dance, for things that you would not get in many Northeast places. Industry is coming and people are incentivized, the youth are incentivized to stay in Shillong rather than if you want to make a name for yourself, you come to Bangalore, to Delhi, to Mumbai, to Chennai. Because this industry is coming, they're incentivized to stay as well. So no doubt, if you let complete industry come, then Jowai coal mines are gone, then places look like Police Bazaar. But also there is this angle where people are having an opportunity to stay and build a life. I want to know that regardless of the conversation we have, this economic boom is going to happen. It's going to become a tourist mainstream hotspot. Do you, as someone who's been living in Shillong your whole life, do you view this change as a net positive or just a net negative?
I think any development and progress, has always has two sides to it, the good and the bad. It is true, what you. I couldn't complete the answer earlier. There was a lot of, there still is a lot of irreverence for whatever is our own, all right? And it started, with the British and the Welsh missionaries and so on. When Khasis talked about their myths and legends and their poetry and even their traditional game and their cultural activities, they were discouraged from all of those as irreligious and pagan. But young people nowadays have started to become more aware about their own culture and their own customs. They have begun to take more pride in them, And as one of the new developments that you talk about, they are beginning to exploit our mythical and legendary heritage for purposes of modernity. For example, for purposes of the tourism industry. So in that sense, the development is not bad per se, but and Meghalaya has to rely very heavily on the tourism industry. In fact, we are earning a major chunk of our revenue from the tourism industry. And the tourism industry also, another good thing about the tourism industry is that it forces the locals to be less parochial. It forces the locals to be more accommodating, to be more liberal in their outlook. If they become communal, if they become parochial, if there are troubles, if there are riots, for instance, who will come? Who will come to visit the place, however beautiful it may be? But then, obviously, there are also the negative sides of such developments. I'll just give you one example. We have a place called Nongkynrih, which is the cleanest village in Asia. And now it is, because of the influx of tourists, it is at risk of becoming one of the one of the dirtiest of villages. So there is the positive and the negative side to every progress. And we're just talking about one aspect of it. And if you think about industries and minings and uranium mining, and they're trying to mine uranium in Meghalaya, if you allow that to happen, then we have had it. So we have, as we move forward, we have to look out that we have to, as we move forward, we have to look to the past and try to learn lessons from it. And see what is good and what is bad for us. Thank you.